Welcome, this is Ryan with R&A Music, and I'm here with a special guest, Ashley Murff.
Hey, what's up, guys?
And we're going to do a quick little, very short, hopefully, well, who knows, it might go long, little interview. We'll talk a little bit about Ashley and her music, and then we'll have her play one of her songs for you. So it'll be awesome. So, Ashley is actually one of our students, former students at R&A Music, still comes in for consultations from time to time. First of all, let's talk a little bit about songwriting. That's you've written a lot of songs?
Yeah, I've written a lot of songs and more recently been creating more and just adding music back to lyrics that I wrote a long time ago. So I think all in all I'm about 21 songs now.
Okay, so let's talk about your process a little bit, because I think this is interesting, and I think a lot of people watching are probably interested. If they're interested in writing songs, everybody, who learns to play an instrument is a lot of times probably interested in doing that. Let's go through a little bit of your process. Now, I know when you first came for lessons here, you were learning to play guitar, and you've done a great job. And but you had a lot of lyrics already written. So, do you tend to write lyrics first?
See, that's kind of funny because most of the time I would say that's a yes, but it kind of all depends on where you get inspired from.
Mm-hmm.
For me, if it's something that I've observed, it may be coming from the words first. Like I'll be like, oh well, this is how I feel about the situation, so I'll put it into words. Or sometimes I won't have any inspiration at all, and I'll just sit down at the keyboard or sit down with my guitar and start playing some tune and be like, hey, this is kind of good.
Mm-hmm.
And just kind of go from there. So it just kind of depends on where your inspiration comes from for me, because I don't really think that there's any certain one process to write a song. I think it depends on the artist and their style of music and how that person operates as to how that's going to affect their writing. Because anybody can get inspired from a situation, but everybody's going to take different inspiration from the situation. So I think it all just kind of depends on who you are.
When you see interviews, people talk about their songwriting process. They say a lot of things, but let's cut right to it, to where if someone's sitting at home, they go, I want to write a song today. Walk me through the steps. Do you have pen and paper in hand? Because if you come up with something cool, you're like,
I would say definitely have pen and paper out. You don't necessarily have to start with it first, but when you write a song, I always say you need to pick a topic, and you could even write that down, whether you want it to be a happy song or a sad song, and a song where you're angry, whatever it is. And so then once you pick a topic that you want to write about, then I would say create a story. And whether the story is something that you've witnessed or you've been through your own self, you can even be creative with that. Like we were saying, you can imagine a lot more to something than what it really was. So once you create a story of how you want the characters to be or whatever, then try to put that into words.
Mm-hmm.
So, say you have a song where it's you want it to be a love song, so the couple's together, but then something bad happens and they break up, and in the end they get back together or something. Whatever.
That sounds like every song.
Yeah.
most songs that are hits are.
Yeah. Most songs are love songs because that's something that everybody can relate to. So, if that's what your storyline is, put that into words. Talk about maybe how first they were in love, and then give something that, tells why they're not together, and then in the end you have to put into words they're back together, or whatever it is, whatever your story is or your topic. And that, there really is no method as to how to put it into words. That's just how you are going to feel about it as the writer and as the musician, and what chords you're playing, or, what kind of beat you want it to have, or whatever.
Yeah.
And, like I said, something you can relate to. You want to make your song where it's relatable. Because if it's not relatable, and if nobody knows what you're talking about, then you're not really going to get a good product by the time that you're done.
Right.
And I do that with my own music. I will imagine something a little bit, to where it's oh, well, this is what happened, but I may make it to where I'm the one that it happened to when maybe it's not, or it may be something that I went through that I just kind of
amplify it a little bit.
Amplify it a little bit, to make it more interesting or to make it more relatable, and that's completely fine when you do that. So.
Well, you said like love songs or something. Probably having universal themes. Like love is something like everybody is like sort of that affects everyone, or happiness or joy or hurt or anger or any emotions are universal. And if I want to write a song about Fender amps, that's a really small demographic of people that are actually gonna, well, not small, but there are only certain kind of people who are gonna even care about a guitar amp.
Right.
But if you write a song about relationships, everybody has relationships of different kinds at different levels. So that's you pick a kind of a broad topic.
And even if you want to say a love song, most people think love song, like they think of things like Taylor Swift's love songs, and a love song doesn't necessarily have to be that. Like the song "In My Daughter's Eyes," that is a love song. It is it's about a love that a mother has for a daughter.
Yeah.
And with love, it's such a universal topic because every emotion can come out of that. Whether it's you're mad or you're sad or you're happy or it's new, or you could be talking about the bad sides, the good sides, you can do anything really with that. And then there is other topics definitely outside of that too, that some of the best songs out there aren't even about love, and so really it just all depends on what topic and where you want to go with your story. And then once you have your words, pick up your instrument, whatever you play. If you play more than one instrument, the better.
That's great.
If you play more than one instrument, the better, because you can really tweak it and make it sound like what you want it to sound like. Or maybe you want to build in this one part because you're really trying to emphasize the words you have written down, or you want to bring it down at the end, or whatever you want to do. So sit down with your guitar, sit down at your piano, and if you have one part already done, you're like, awesome, write down what you did so you don't forget it, and then move on to the next instrument if you want to.
Yeah.
And then of course, just because it's written down, or just because you may have the music recorded for it on your phone or on a video, you can always go back and change it. Don't ever feel like it's permanent.
Locked in stone or something.
Yeah.
Set in stone.
Yeah. Because it's yours. You can do whatever you want to it. And that's one of the great things I think about songwriting, is because, you're ultimately the one in control.